when the governor recently announced that she was recommending for the school districts to implement on their own a 2-week pause. There's so many mixed messages for the leaders of our school districts when these recommendations come from the governor. Let's bring in Dr. Gerald Hill. He's the superintendent for West Bloomfield School District. Doctor, when the governor, put that out in a press conference, what was your initial thoughts?
Well, Ronnie, that's an interesting characterization when you say mixed messages. When it came out in a press conference, that was the first the superintendents had heard about that recommendation from the governor. We had not been involved in any conversations with the health department, locally, the Oakland County Health Department, nor the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, nor the governor's office. So it caught all of the superintendents in Oakland County, especially by surprise. And we were a little disappointed that we didn't have a dialogue ahead of the announcement. Consequently, not many of us followed that recommendation, mostly due to the fact that we have been implementing our hybrid program in West Bloomfield, and we have our mitigation strategies, our social distancing, mask wearing, sanitation all in place. And so we felt pretty comfortable keeping that program going as we had been. With the governor's announcement, it seemed like it was a real quick one, and not much time to prepare families or staff or anything for that. So we decided just to maintain our safe operations that we have going on. The one caveat is that it was during spring break, and everybody knows that families were traveling because of COVID fatigue and all of those issues. And we saw on social media the activities of a lot of our families and students. And so we knew there might be a surge in the outbreak following spring break. And so that was a concern and is an ongoing concern.
And have you experienced many outbreaks within the district following spring break?
Mostly at the high school, and they're from students who either contacted COVID during spring break or subsequent to from their social gatherings and or family members. We have, as an example, we have approximately 27 students at the high school who are home with COVID. And then consequent to that, we have about 77 students that are in quarantine because they came in contact with COVID, either through a family member or a friend. And so we have approximately 100 of our high school students that are currently either quarantined or at home dealing with COVID.
This is so hard because I know that so many members of the staff over there are working countless hours to try to get the students back into the classrooms. Can it be frustrating when they are doing things outside of the classroom that jeopardizes all of your plans?
It can be, but I will say that staff are also in that same place. Several of them had contacted COVID from family members or social gatherings themselves. Not as many, but we've had. I think, Ronnie, it's a matter of people. Yes, we may be tired of all of the mitigation and social distancing and sanitation, but we need to keep in mind that that's what's been keeping us safe. I think people are letting their guard down, and unfortunately, a lot of the discussion around COVID has become a political discussion as opposed to a community health discussion, and I think that changes the context some as well.
We're talking with Dr. Gerald Hill. He's the superintendent for the West Bloomfield School District. We also know that our state lawmakers did put money attached to school districts getting kids back into the classroom. So how would that be impacted if you do decide to close the schools?
Well, that's a good question. Our board grappled with that for a better part of a month. I think we spent about 9 hours in school board meetings having a conversation about the school aid fund money that the local state legislatures added to the federal Emergency CARES Act money. And in West Bloomfield, we stood to gain about $1.2 million had we been able to put together a program full-time face-to-face or 20 hours per week of face-to-face, and after examining several models, our board decided that we couldn't do that in all consciousness in a safe way. So we stayed with our current hybrid model. Consequently, we don't qualify, at least at this point in time, for that $1.2 million. And that's one of those mixed messages. So the governor signed that legislation saying that schools should strive for the 20 hours of face-to-face. Then at the same time, she says you should pause instruction at the high school. Well, what does that do to that 20-hour requirement? The other interesting thing is the state has determined that we should keep our high stakes testing, M-STEP, in place, and that's going on this week actually. And that was another factor. The recommendation to close schools sort of contradicts the requirement to offer the state exams. And then there was, well, you can take it later. Well, there's not that much of a year left. So it's very, I'll say chaotic in terms of the decision making that's happening at this point in time.
Yeah, sometimes I really wonder if the people at the top are even getting together to have some discussions when they're trying to go public with some of their recommendations and mandates. And it's tough too. And, I'm with you when it comes to standardized tests right now for students. We're still struggling to, just get them into the classroom. Is this really the right time to give them a standardized test?
And it's interesting. We have to give the test, but we don't have to use the results for anything. So to me, it's taking time away from teaching and learning, the precious time that we do have, because there's nothing standard about the conditions. We have students at home, we have students going in hybrid, and from district to district, it varies. And so standardized test, the word standardized flies in the face of nothing is standard right now. And so I think it's better spending our time teachers doing assessments for learning. What do the students need to learn? Where are they in terms of their unfinished learning? And use that type of assessment rather than a state mandated test.
So with that, Dr. Hill, how much of this miscommunication from our elected leaders and offices in Lansing fall on the shoulders of superintendents such as yourself, because you're just trying to navigate this world like the rest of us, but yet you're also the face of the district?
Yeah, there was a letter. I don't have a copy in front of me, but we wrote a letter to the governor with that same message that, we as superintendents have an expertise in the area of teaching and learning and managing educational organization. We do not have a public health degree. We're not epidemiologists. And if we are going to close schools, that decision for COVID and pandemic reasons, that decision should more properly come from the health department, Oakland County Health Department, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the governor's office. She has those resources at her disposal, and they can let us know rather than say each local school board and each local superintendent, you make the decision. And no matter what decision a local school board or superintendent makes, you're pretty much guaranteed that 50% of the people will disagree with it, no matter where you go with it. So.
Right. So hard. How are the student athletes doing right now? Because I know that they put the additional mandated testing on them. How are they handling everything?
They're actually under Eric Pierce, our athletic director, and the coaches. The testing of student athletes, although intensive, it's working. Every student athlete is tested once per week, and that's functioning. We have very little right now COVID cases on the athletic teams. And I was at a baseball game last night at the high school. There was a track meet going on at the same time. A lot of students out there. Of course, in baseball, it's outside. Track and field is outside. And for the most part, the students are socially distanced. Obviously, the distance between the catcher and the batter maybe is not exactly 6 feet, but it's outside. And they were playing and engaged in an activity that they were enjoying. And so far that is working okay. Um, Indoor activities would be a little dicier, but spring is an outdoor pretty much season, so the activities are going well, actually.
And let's hope Mother Nature starts to cooperate a little better than she is today. Because if you're
Yeah,
going to be outside in Michigan, we want to be warm.
yeah. Snowflakes make a baseball hard to see, I think so.
With that, right? Yeah, opening day. It was
Oh yeah,
crazy.
I forgot
Dr.
about that.
Gerald Hill with us here on the MegaCast. He's the superintendent for the West Bloomfield School District. So we do know that your district has also been managing the hybrid learning model. How's it going?
It's going well. Our attendance is fairly good. One of the options we gave families coming back from spring break is if they didn't feel comfortable sending their children to school, they could keep them home as an excused absence. But our attendance has been good. Our teachers, they continue to they're dedicated and caring, and they're carrying on the lessons. So the hybrid program is going well. We're in the throes right now, Ronnie, of planning a summer school. One of the things that everybody's talking about in the education world is this concept called learning loss. And because of the difficulties in the various conditions that students and teachers are faced with. And I sort of have a different spin or take on the word learning loss. I would rather call it unfinished learning, because students are learning. And they may not be learning as measured by a state assessment, but they are learning nonetheless. But there are certain gaps that we know that are occurring. And so our summer program is going to be geared toward making learning fun and engaging, but addressing a lot of those learning gaps and completing a lot of the learning, particularly in our younger students, the learning to read and write and compute.
So with that, when does registration start for that? Is it going to be hard? Do you anticipate, registration filling up quickly?
We do, and it's going to start shortly, and all the information will be on our website. In our elementary program, we're doing for K to 4 a couple of different sessions. Session 1, the overall theme is be a Laker detective.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so it'll be reading and writing and science and all that, but it's going to be with the detective theme. And then the second phase is be a Laker maker. And I know you had Bill Bertakis on ahead of me, and we're borrowing from that making kind of approach, if you will, where students they're going to apply their innovative thinking, and they're going to create a design as a maker project. And then we're going to also be using Lego robotics, making obstacle courses and that type of thing for elementary. So it'll be a fun activity for the elementary students.
So I know that Bill did mention briefly about the new middle school. How's construction going?
It's going really well, and if you've driven by lately, you'll see that Orchard Lake Middle School is nearly gone. I'd say it's about 4/5 disappeared. They have some more foundation work to do, and I imagine the neighbors are getting a little bit annoyed with some of the noise and the dust, but that'll be over shortly. And so in a very short period of time, when somebody drives past the new middle school, they'll actually see, you can see it right now, it's looking fantastic. And when one goes inside, which I've been able to do, we're making tremendous progress on the inside as well.
I do like that it's at the same location. So when you see the demoed project in the front, you do see progress behind it. Because
Yes.
I know when my middle school was torn down, I go back and it's an empty lot and I get sad. It's like, oh, it's like you're missing something.
Like one of those shows on HDTV where you have the unveiling. There's the picture of the old house in front, and they wheel it aside, and there's the new.
Yes.
Well, this is, instead of wheeling it aside, we're tearing down the old, and behind is the new. So it's a dramatic look.
With us, Dr. Gerald Hill, Superintendent for the West Bloomfield School District. And Doctor, before you go, we do want to bring up Deanna Bear. She was a longtime friend for us here on the MegaCast. We've had her on several times. She's been a champion for the students at West Bloomfield. And I know you can't talk a lot about the case against her, but what message do you want to get to the parents?
Oh, yeah, it was very unfortunate. Ms. Barish resigned in March. She has a personal legal issue that she is dealing with from her previous employment, and it's very unfortunate what she's going through. What we're doing in West Bloomfield is we have a position posted, Assistant Superintendent for Learning Services, and that's posted. We intend to fill that position by July 1st. We haven't interviewed anybody, it's just been posted. It's a real critical position in our school district. Our teaching and learning team, they're the ones that are right now, they're doing a tremendous amount of work on the summer school. They're doing a tremendous amount of work on assessment, and our assistant superintendent for talent development and management, Eric Whitney, he's wearing two hats now, which is a tremendous amount of responsibility. I'm a little more involved in the curriculum and instruction aspects. So we're gonna come out okay, and I just wish Ms. Barish the best in what she's dealing with right now. And as a school district, we feel confident that we will have a person in place by summer and move forward from there.
Dr. Gerald Hill with us, Superintendent for the West Bloomfield School District. As always, we appreciate your time today.